Hello people of YouTube, Deepak here and welcome to Rogue System. This is my tutorial video on the startup procedure for the FireArk shuttle. We're currently docked with a training platform which is used in the game for training pilots on how to dock and undock from external docking collars. I'll actually just jump to the outside view so you can have a little peek at it and see both the FireArk and the station in all of its glory. And actually that's a moon down there that we're currently orbiting. So the purpose of this tutorial mission is to teach the pilot how to start up their ship and then safely undock and fly away from the docking platform. It'll follow the procedures that you'll find in tutorial mission 3 in the game itself. So, without any further ado, let's make our way to the cockpit. Now you'll notice that the lights, the interior lights, are a little bit dim right now. That's because we're on emergency power. We're actually just drawing energy from the batteries right now. So one of the first things we're going to want to do is power the ship up properly and connect to station power. So, I've opened the hatch, so I'm just closing it again. That'll recline the seat for me, and I can then go ahead and jump into the pilot's seat. Now, the very first thing you always want to do is safe your seat. Once you're sitting down, that'll put down your harness and rotate the seat a little bit, and actually this hard mounted display in front of you will also rotate up back into its normal position. So we're now going to turn off the cabin floodlights just to save some battery power and turn on the instrument backlighting. This will give us nice colour coded backlights to many of the system panels and buttons. Now we've got two panels full of controls for the ship, our left panel and our right panel. Each of these panels is split into sections. You can probably just about make out the outline of the different sections on these panels. We have the battery management system here. We have the fuel cell management system. We have the electrical system here. Temperature management. Reactant core management. These are different ship system controls. We have the main engine system. Comms. Navigation and autopilot here, and then finally the maneuvering thruster system control panel is here. Okay, so very first thing we need to do is power the ship up, so we're going to go to the battery management system and power battery 1, and in the electrical panel we're going to power the primary bus, and then straight away our displays start to initialize and come up. Oh, and there we go, all kinds of warning noises coming on. That's actually not really anything too much to worry about. We hit the M key just to cancel our master caution. These warning lights that are being displayed on the caution and warning panels, they're perfectly normal. They're simply systems that have not been powered on yet. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to turn off the maintenance cutoff switch. That will allow us to draw energy directly from the station, and we can then turn on battery recharge for battery 1 now that we're being powered from the station. So next we're going to switch to battery 2 and power it, and also set it to recharge. And with the two batteries online, we can then enable the secondary power bus as well. If I zoom in here, you'll see that this control switches between primary, secondary and main power buses. So let's power that up. Now you're going to see that some load appears on the secondary bus, but there's no available power. If I flick back to the primary, you'll see that it has available power showing. Now that's because the maintenance power provided by the station, over here on the left, only powers the primary bus. We need to enable a bus tie by switching the distribution mode on the panel here to balanced. And once we do that, we should see that our warning lights for system bus 2, yep, they also go out. So we've got no warnings for bus 1, no warnings for bus 2, everything's working perfectly. So the next thing we want to do is the ship has two fuel cells. These are used up as a backup power source in the event that the LENR, which is our cold fusion reactor, in the event that it's offline. The only thing is they take quite a few minutes to warm up, and they need to be warm to safely operate. So they're controlled from this panel here with system 1 selected. We're just going to hit power, and at that stage there's a heating element in the fuel cell, and you'll see that the core temperature just very slowly starts to rise. If we switch to system 2, we'll do exactly the same thing for system 2 and make sure that its core temperature starts to rise as well. As long as it does, yep, we're starting at a reading, then we can leave that at that. Okay, next thing that we want to do is we want to enable the thermal management system. The electrical systems, and actually all of the systems on the ship, pretty much produce heat, and that heat needs to be radiated out. So we power the thermal management system. It's got two loops, loops 1 and 2, and we tell the computer that we want to pressurize this loop, and then we turn on the pump. You should then notice that coolant level and coolant pressure begin to rise. And once they're in their normal arcs, there we go, we got green and orange for just now. And eventually we'll get green and green. There we go. We're fairly happy with that. And then we'll do the same thing with the second system. Tell it to pressurize, turn on the pump, give it a little bit of time, and it'll be showing happy readings, and then by which time these TMS warnings should go off. Which they do. Perfect. Okay, so that's the TMS system all up and running. So at this point, we really want to get in touch with the space traffic control, the controllers on board this station, to let them know that we're here and we're interested in departing. So first thing we do is we go to the comms panel here, we power the comms panel, and we power the transmitter. And at that stage, we can actually hit the tab key and communicate with space traffic control. So I'm going to do that. Just going to check in with them just now. That just lets them know that we're on board the ship, it's powered, there's somebody here who might want to interact with them at some point. There we go, they have us checked in. Next thing we're going to do is request our departure clearance. And there we go. So they say we have departure approved, but we need to contact them before we enable the LENR, which is our main reactor. So that's actually one of the next things that we're going to do. So if we go over here, this is the panel for the main engine system. Main engine system comprises of a flux drive, which is a constant G interplanetary drive. On our ship, that's actually disabled presently, and it also contains our main reactor, the LENR. So we'll power the entire panel, and then we'll set the LENR, not the fuel cutoff, we'll set the LENR to enabled. Now that will immediately turn on the electromagnetic field. That shields us from the low speed neutrons which are being emitted by that reactor. They're actually considered perfectly safe, but at the same time, who doesn't like a bit of electromagnetic shielding from particles buzzing about? Now the other thing we have to do is we have to preheat the core, because the core cannot be operated before it's within its operating range. So that's fine, we're just waiting for that to happen. Next thing that we have to do before we activate the reactor is we have to actually turn on the reactant core. Now the reactant core is where all of our volatile gases and whatever else are stored. It can actually be ejected in the event of an emergency, and its control panel is down here. It contains 4 separate tanks. Now tanks 1 and 4 contain argon, which is used by the manoeuvring thruster system. Tank 2 contains hydrogen, which is used by the fuel cells and by the LENR, and Tank 3 contains oxygen, which is the oxidant used by the, oxidizer, I guess I should say. Oxidant or oxidizer? Oxidizer, yes, used by the fuel cell system. So I'm going to power this up just now. It contains these 4 tanks. I'm just going to hit enable all, and what that will do is that will turn on the pump and kind of turn off the shut-off valves for all 4 tanks. And we've also got a little indicator here which will show us the tank levels for each of the 4 tanks. So we've got number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. They're all showing full contents, so I'm quite happy with that. So we're going to proceed to select a fuel source for the LENR. It's automatically selected tank 2, as it should. And actually we're going to do the same thing for the fuel cells, so they're going to be ready to use if we do have any problem with the reactor. So I hit fuel source, grabs tank 2 as the reactant, and reactant source grabs tank 3. If I switch to system 1, I'll do the same there. Both of them are now set up. So in the event that we need to use the fuel cells, we just open the shut-off valve and they start to generate power. Okay, with all of that done, we're now at orange on the core temperature for the LENR. That means we are ready to make use of it. It's within its safe operating range. So let's contact space traffic control again, and we're going to ask for LENR initiation. Wait for them to get back to us and say that that's all right. And there we go, we're clear to initiate. So we hit the fuel cutoff, and we're now ready to hit fuse enable, which will start the reactor. And there we go. Display says fusing. High voltage bus is starting to show available power. So we're now actually safe to switch to the main bus and hit power to enable the main bus. And there you go. Straight away all of our power warning lights go out. We've got more than enough power to do everything we might want to do at this stage. So we can hit the maintenance cutoff. That means we're no longer making use of station power, which is good. So at this stage we're actually self-sufficient. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to power up the manoeuvring thruster system, so that when we go to detach from this platform we have an ability to control the ship. So we apply the power, we select fuel source, we open the fuel cutoff, and we enable the injector. Now at this stage the manoeuvring thruster system is ready to use what's called cold gas mode. Now the manoeuvring thruster system is a Vassimer thruster system. It produces plasma, which of course is rather dangerous to use around structures. So it has a number of modes which make it less dangerous. It's got cold gas mode, where it's actually just squirting the argon out of the nozzles without heating it or turning it to plasma or doing anything. That's obviously the lowest energy mode, so that gives you the least thrust, but it's completely safe. When you're within, I'm trying to remember now, 300 meters of the platform, you need to be in cold gas mode. The station enforces that. Once you're further out, you can use either cold plasma or hot plasma modes. With the hot plasma mode, you're superheating plasma, which has been generated from argon, and sending it out the thrusters. That produces the most thrust possible. And in cold plasma mode, you're converting the argon to plasma, but you're not superheating it. It's still, of course, plasma, so it's still very, very hot, but it's not quite as hot as hot plasma mode. This can be used for approaching certain objects, to give you a little bit more thrust. But if you're docking or undocking, you need to be in cold gas mode. So I'm going to leave it in cold gas mode for now. The last thing I need to do is enable all nozzles, so that we're good to kind of maneuver the ship. Next thing I'm going to do as well, actually, is I'm going to switch to navigation, and I'm going to power up the navigation and autopilot systems. That gives me my navigational display, and it also gives me a series of autopilot hold modes, which actually we're not going to use just yet. Okay, so the last thing we need to do now actually is speak to space traffic control and request for permission to undock. So I'm going to have my comms system ready here. Up until this point, we've been communicating with the space traffic control using the hard line in our umbilical. Obviously, once we disconnect, that's not going to be an option, so we need to tune a radio. And also, I'm going to switch my seat into the normal flight position. It's going to rotate it up so it's straight. We want to do that before disconnecting. Okay, so at this stage, we're good to speak to space traffic control and tell them that we're ready for departure. Okie dokie, and he's going to give me some frequency, so I'm just going to have my cursor ready inside the comms display. Okay, clearance is granted. I'll just click inside the first box, so I'm ready. Maintenance power is disabled. Okay, so we're tuning 45, decimal 2, decimal 3, and hitting set. Oh, I didn't have channel 3 selected. Set. There we go. Silly me. And now I'm going to select channel 4 to tune my localizer. It's sort of like ILS. It gives me position information of that particular docking collar. So that's all set up. We're ready to go. Just going to switch to external display so you can see what's going on. The umbilicals have been disconnected, and now the clamps are going to release, and that will push me away from the station just very gently. There we go. Very nice. Okay, use dock limiting to clear the local area. Dock limiting means that I'm only allowed to use cold gas mode on the thrusters. Okay, so I'm going to push my aft translational thruster, and that's going to allow me to back away from the station. That pinger that you can hear, by the way, is a proximity warning. That just lets me know that I'm quite close to an object. That proximity pinger will change in its sort of frequency as I get further and further away. Just going to push a bit more on my aft thruster. There we go, so we can make our way away from the station a bit quicker. Oh, and actually, very important thing to do, now that we're clear of the structure, we want to deploy the radiators so that we can properly cool the ship. There we go, and do the same for system 1. Good, that'll help us keep our thermal, our temperature under control basically. And also I'm going to turn on my yaw, pitch and roll holds, and enable the autopilot. So at that stage the ship will hold this orientation automatically, which is nice. Pinger's getting quieter and quieter as we get further and further away. Really like that lens flare. These viewport monitors, they just look fantastic. Really good field of view as well through these monitors. Okay, so we're coming up to 200 meters. We need to be at 300 meters before we can engage the hot plasma mode of our maneuvering thruster system. I keep saying 300 meters, it's 200 meters. Deary me. Okay, so we're beyond range. So at this stage we turn on the helical ionizer. This actually turns the argon into plasma. We also want to, well actually before I do anything else actually I should have been turning on the superconductor, because the big problem with plasma is that it's perfectly capable of damaging your own ship. So we wait for the electromagnetic shield to get up to an acceptable level, which it's just about to do. There, we're orange. Then the Helicon coupler comes on. Luckily, actually, the the computer is clever enough not to allow me to do that. You notice I pushed in the button, but it didn't change colour. So actually, until the shielding was at the right level, the Helicon ionizer didn't come online. But anyway, that's what converts the argon into plasma. The next thing we want to do is turn on the ICH cyclotron. This is the thing that superheats the plasma for hot plasma mode. We then push and hold ignite provide. And that's us. The maneuvering thruster system is fully active. And if I turn off the cold gas override button, we are now in full hot gas mode. And I can swing the ship around. Well, there you go. And actually with the autopilot on, it's going to automatically cancel that pitch as soon as I let go of the stick, which is actually makes life very easy. Now the only thing is, of course, it still needs to obey the laws of physics, so if I get a really fast rotation going I need to let go of the stick and wait for it to stop. Also you'll notice down here that I've got a variety of different modes that the maneuvering thrust system can operate in. We'll discuss those another day, but for now basically I've just got the ability to rotate in my usual 3 axes. Okay, so that's us. We're clear of the station. That pretty much concludes the first tutorial. That's start up and undocking. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.